The new S-Class was recently launched and it was such a hit that the entire lot of the CBU cars was completely sold out. And that made Mercedes-Benz India advance the production of the Made in India version. And we're here today on that occasion to talk with the MD and CEO of Mercedes-Benz India, Mr. Martin Schwenk. Thank you so much, Mr. Schwenk, for taking the time to speak with us today, and a momentous occasion. And I think it's a good problem to have to advance something and bring it forward, but not easy in these times with semiconductor problems. So were there a lot of challenges to do this?
Let me say first, thanks Ranuka for coming out to Pune, because challenges are everywhere, even on the road. Of course, I mean, ramp up of is by itself an issue. And we must not forget the pandemic situation was very, very bad. We could also not produce in the time frames with full capacity, say April, May, June, even July. Now we are back to full operations, but still it's a complex car. So we had to send some of our people overseas to get trained in other locations because it's complicated and complex. But I think we managed well, and now we have the car here, we're launching it, and I'm really happy that we were successful in that.
Yeah. And what are the kind of volumes you expect now? Because this is now, you know, the locally manufactured version and at a much better price point than the complete import.
Of course, it's a very attractive price point now, which we're offering here, 1.57 crore for the 350 diesel and 1.62 crore for the 450 petrol. That's around 60 lakh less than the CBU version. So I really think we will find a good audience here, a lot of customer interest. We know that already. We have a lot of bookings already on our hands. For sure, our CBU did very well, but at a different price point. And there we sold 150 cars, which I think is very adequate and strong if you think it's only a few months. This car has much higher aspiration. Traditionally, we should be able in the higher three-digit numbers here to sell in an annual scenario, the locally built S-Class. Yeah. Of course, again, that will also hinge on how the whole situation develops. Yeah.
Absolutely. So is the semiconductor problem sorted itself out for you all? Do you now have, or will there again be a lot of waiting even for S-Class customers?
I mean, unfortunately, the situation is still very much under stress. That's the entire supply chain. It is from logistical challenges on containers or air freight to semiconductors and components. So I cannot assume at this stage that the problems will go away in the next few weeks. We have been lucky to some extent that we got quite a few parts always allotted to India in order to keep the domestic production running and stably running, and also support ramp up. So we got a lot of support from Mercedes globally. On the other hand, we could not get all what we wanted, and that creates these backlogs. We showed 8 to 16 weeks. Some models, if you want a GLS, you may even have to wait longer. So we will not be able to eliminate these restrictions in the next few weeks. The global stress on the system is too high, I can clearly say so. But I can only say the team here in Pune does everything they can do. We have put in extra work Saturday, Sunday, whatever, to make it happen. On the other hand, if supply falls a little short, then we cannot really resolve it.
Yeah. And you know, in the CBU version you had a 400D, and now in the locally manufactured version you have a 350D. Will we see more variants added on now that it is being locally assembled? Will we see more variants later on?
Let's say we start with this now, yeah, and I think we hit with that what most of the customers want. Yeah, we have some variants also with interiors and colors and so forth, but at this stage we're not speculating about additional variants. You know, it's always possible because the global portfolio gives some additional potential to offer variants. For example, if you compare the CBU with this vehicle, the CBU had a rear axle steering.
That's right.
A feature which we don't really 100% know or see that it's needed in India for a broader audience. But if we feel, for example, it would really make sense, then we can anytime, point in time, maybe bring it on the car or have another version or so. So, I mean, at this point in time, we hope to have the first happy customers very soon, and then we take it from there.
Okay. And the electric version of the S-Class, there's been a lot of buzz, a lot of people wanting to know about the EQS, and will we be seeing that? And do you think we'll ever see an EV being assembled over here on the India lines?
Well, I think we started this EV journey relatively early. I mean, when we launched the EQ brand, we had then the EQC launched exactly a year ago. We see very good traction on the EQC, and we see that the overall interest in electric vehicles has further increased. Yeah, what we were anticipating already 2 years ago is that it will start, and now we see more and more dynamics. I see it in every public, I see it in your magazine, I see it in others. I see it when we talk to customers, the interest is increasing. So for sure we will further develop not only our network, which we have expanded, but also our product portfolio. And I would also see at some point in time we'll have locally produced vehicles. Whether that happens already next year, I'm not so sure yet. I'm sure we will do something more in electric, definitely bring the one or other car, still to be decided, but we will definitely do something. Whether and how much we do on localization, it also depends a little bit on the speed and how the things develop. But in the midterm, I think it's a given that we have to assume that we do domestic production on EVs as well.
Yeah. And EQS, do we see it this year or will we see it next year? Is there a plan for the EQS?
This year you won't see it. For next year we will see. Yeah. So, but I mean the interest and actually the demand for the EQS is huge. We have also seen here a lot. I mean it's a very different car than this.
Yeah.
So if we say it's the S-Class of EVs, it's not comparable exactly to that car. When you take the overall, the features are very different. I mean, this is still the top end of luxury you can think of, and it won't be replaced with an EQS. The EQS would be a complementary offering then for our customers. I surely think it has potential in India, and we will look into that for sure. Yeah.
And you just mentioned the top end of luxury, and that generally is the Maybach as well. So will that also be coming? Because we haven't seen the new Maybach here in India as yet. And this is holding this top spot as of now. Yeah,
it's the top spot. And of course, the Maybach is, we have done as a very few markets locally and domestically produced Maybach in the previous model. And for sure, we will also look into whether it makes sense here. So I'm quite positive about that, that we would do also an S-Class Maybach.
Yeah. Okay. And, you know, you've had a great Q3 with 99% growth. That's fantastic. And I'm sure you could have done more without the semiconductor problem.
For sure.
But what's the outlook for the festive season and what are your hopes? And do you see this Indian market completely bouncing back and you know, especially the luxury segment?
I mean, in my view, it has bounced back much better than anyone could have expected, and specifically in our segment. We always talk about sales numbers, but I can also look into, say, after-sales customer service business. And there we see that we have done the last 2 months or even more better than 2019, for example. So we see really a strong demand in mobility coming back. It means cars being serviced. Of course, there might be the one or other pent-up demand, but on the new car side, I see on top that our new products have created a lot of interest with the customers, and I see that there is a healthy demand which will also last now going forward. I mean, always assuming that we don't get any other major impact of the pandemic situation, which I really wouldn't expect. I would expect that we have a strong festive season, but I would also think we will not be able to deliver all cars in that festive season because of these waiting periods which we're having. And naturally that might then not give the stellar sales numbers which we would hope for, because we will not be able to deliver all vehicles. But overall, I think the sentiment is healthy, the demand is there. The concern is a little bit more on the supply side, which is still, from a customer point of view, not nice, but from a manufacturer, still the better problem to have than not having customers at all. Yeah, so
absolutely, selling cars is and not being able to deliver is a better problem to have.
Absolutely, even though I clearly understand, and there is also sometimes frustration with customers,
especially in the luxury.
There is, yeah, and you know, if you have weeks you wait, and they want the cars, yeah, and they want these cars, yeah. So a lot of customers don't really see an option buying another car at all, yeah. And then I can appreciate the frustration, and I can just say to all of these customers, we really try to do what we can, and we try to eliminate the constraints, but it will remain difficult.
How long do you think that this will be? Do you see an end to it yet, or do you think it's still...
based on current visibility, we cannot assume that it's done in a few months. Yeah, it appears to be because it's a global phenomenon, and the global shortage is there, and the global manufacturing capabilities.
So this will run into next year?
It will definitely run into next year. That's a given. How long into next year, the full or not, I really don't know. Yeah, but I think the constraints will remain to a certain level.
My last question on retail of the future. You said you're going to bring it to the customers now later this month. What's the reaction been from the dealers? Has it been positive? And going forward, do you think that this is going to be the model, that's going to be adopted by a lot of others as well? Because everything seems to be going online these days.
Well, it's not about online. Maybe I should say that at this stage, yeah. But to your first question, I'm personally deeply convinced that it's the right model, and I think all of our dealers are with us. We call them in this model franchise partners, and I would ask everyone to check with the principal if you know them. I'm convinced that all of them will give you a very positive statement, because we have worked with them over the last 15 months to define processes. How will remuneration work? How will customer interaction work? And we have worked with them together to define this new model. So I would say we have a very strong 100% buy-in at this stage. At the same time, when you say digital, I would want to mention as well that we're not establishing a competing sales channel or an online-only sales channel in which we then competing against existing dealers. That's not the case. The entire
centralizing the order process,
inventory, the order process, the pricing itself, so that our franchise partners can fully focus on selling the car to the customer, explaining the features, and creating a very strong and positive customer experience. So online will also develop, but it's not competing against. So also in an online transaction, the dealer gets the remuneration. So I mean, we have a very I think a good approach there, and also I think a very strong buy-in from the dealers. But of course, we're now in the transition phase, and the next few weeks and couple of months have to prove. If you ask me about other manufacturers, I hope they don't, because we will have a competitive edge.
Yeah. How do you deal with the great Indian mentality that I get a great discount? And that differs from dealer to dealer, and that's something that customers bank on, especially festive season and things like that. So is that going to be a part of the process, and it will be straightforward offered from Mercedes-Benz India?
Yes, we will have centrally steered offers that are available to every customer. Yeah, and I always say, why do you negotiate? You negotiate because you want the best price. And I'm just telling you get the best price, because that's the price. If you go to 5 dealers and ask them for the price, and you think you have found now the best price in the old model, then you still have a doubt, should I not ask the 6th dealer who maybe can make me a better offer, and tell him I have these 5 offers. So you're never sure that you have the best price. In the new model, you will have the best price, and you have transparency how that price is built up. You get an offer which is completely detailed, shows you exactly how the different elements are, how do you see your on-road price being built. A lot of transparency on pricing and inventory, so you will love it eventually. And I think some customers will take time to appreciate, but I'm convinced they will at the end see the benefits to them as well. And we will talk more about that when we go really officially then again live with it in like 3 weeks, or it's actually a little bit more than 2 weeks. Yeah, and I'm looking forward to talk to you again then.
Perfect. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today.
Renuka,
Thanks. It's my pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.